Hi class, welcome to week 2 of your Hospitality Facilities Management class. This week we will discuss planning and organizing the housekeeping department, managing inventory, and management techniques. At the end of this week, you will be able to identify cleaning responsibilities of the housekeeping department, understand the 5 areas of planning, understand the organization process of the housekeeping department, understand and outline the 6 steps to planning the housekeeping department, and identify 7 management techniques to improve employee performance. Areas of responsibility. The housekeeping manager has a responsibility to the general manager and hotel ownership to ensure their team is meeting specific, measurable goals as set by leadership. If the housekeeping manager fails to meet performance goals, they are not an effective leader of their department. However, with that said, the housekeeping manager must utilize what resources they have in order to perform efficiently, exceed guest satisfaction, and meet the goals of the hotel. Resources available to the housekeeping manager come in the form of people, money, time, work methods, materials, energy, and equipment. At any given time, these resources could be in high demand but limited in availability. For example, consider today's labor market. Inflation has caused everything to increase. That includes the cost to operate a hotel, including the wages they pay their staff. One thing to keep in mind as you move through your careers, wages are not set by the hotel manager or owner. Rather, they are based on the market, what competitors are paying, the cost of living for the geographic area, and the value that the hotel manager places on the position they need to fill. Now, at an alarming rate, housekeepers are requesting higher and fairer wages. If they aren't able to get it from their current employer, there is another hotel down the street that will happily hire them at their requested wage. Getting back to resources, it is the responsibility of the housekeeping manager to determine how to use the resources available to them and what strategies they are going to implement to ensure the success of their department. Let's review what the housekeeping responsibilities are. Which areas of the hotel the housekeeping department will be responsible for is ultimately the decision of the general manager. In most typical hotel settings, the housekeeping department will be responsible for guest rooms, the fitness center, hallways, common areas such as the lobby and lobby restrooms, the pool and outdoor areas, management offices, the storage room or storage closets, the laundry area, the back of the house areas such as the break room or locker room, and employee bathrooms. Again, depending on the size and amenities the hotel offers to the housekeeping department, may or may not be responsible for meeting rooms, dining rooms, the gift shop, and restaurants. Most hotels with large and convention space will have dedicated banquet staff to maintain those areas. However, the housekeeping manager will need to work closely with the banquet manager and restaurant manager to ensure their spaces are appropriately cleaned and sanitized. A typical housekeeping team will consist of housekeepers and a house person. The house person or persons are responsible for the upkeep of the fitness center, common areas, lobby restrooms, hallways around the meeting space, the front desk, and some back of the house areas. They will also assist the housekeepers with stripping rooms and replenishing supplies when needed. The number of housekeeping staff a hotel needs at one time depends on the number of rooms the hotel has, as well as the forecasted occupancy for that day. A houseperson is typically staffed in the evening hours to assist with miscellaneous guest requests such as extra towels or extra shampoo. When the houseperson is not scheduled, it will be the responsibility of the front desk staff to take care of guest requests. Keep in mind that while the housekeeping manager is responsible for ensuring that all physical areas of responsibility are being maintained, they must also consider any sustainable practices that are required by management or ownership in the process of planning the department. Planning will be the key to success within the housekeeping department. Failure to plan will result in disorganization, guest dissatisfaction, low morale, decreased productivity, and an increase in departmental expenses. To have a successful and productive housekeeping department, the housekeeping manager will need to focus their strategies in these 5 areas. 1. Area inventory lists. 2. Frequency schedules. 3. Performance standards. 4. Productivity standards. And 5. Inventory levels. Let's first start with area inventory lists. What are they? An area inventory list lists all of the items within each area that the housekeeping department is responsible for. Preparing an area inventory list should be the first step in the housekeeping manager's planning strategy. This will detail exactly what the housekeeping department is responsible for. These lists are quite long but serve a very important purpose in the execution of a planning strategy. Just as separate lists are needed for each area of responsibility, separate lists are needed for each guest room type. Once the area inventory list has been established, the housekeeping manager can use this list to determine cleaning and inspection procedures for each area of responsibility. Inspection lists are required to ensure areas of responsibility are meeting cleanliness standards. They will be used in the inspection process daily. The lists are also used for training and master inventory checks for each month. Frequency schedules. A frequency schedule will detail items and areas from the area inventory list that require routine cleaning. Routine cleaning can be subjective depending on the item that requires cleaning. For example, hallway carpet may require daily vacuuming but does not require daily shampooing. Instead, the housekeeping manager will inspect this area daily and, if necessary, schedule a member of the housekeeping team, usually the houseperson, to shampoo this area. Another example would be light fixtures or light bulbs in the common areas. They don't necessarily require daily dusting. However, the housekeeping manager should inspect these items weekly or bi-weekly, and if they need attention, they can schedule the houseperson to take on this cleaning project. Deep cleaning programs should be a standard practice in all hotels, and the housekeeping manager should maintain a schedule and log of when each guest room and each area was last deep cleaned and what items were focused on as part of the project. Deep cleaning is ideal to assign housekeepers when occupancy is low. Rather than give the housekeepers less hours resulting in less pay, special projects can be assigned during the slow times to keep up with hotel cleanliness and guest satisfaction. When guest rooms are undergoing deep cleaning, they should be taken out of inventory so they are not accidentally assigned to a guest. Most times, a deep cleaning will require carpet shampooing, the drapes being removed and washed, or the bed being pulled off the wall for additional cleaning. These cleaning projects could interfere with a guest's comfort and should only be done when time permits and the room is not going to be sold. Another way to focus attention on items in guest rooms that may require a little extra attention is to assign a single area or items of the guest room as the weekly project. For example, perhaps the lampshades are particularly dusty and could use a wipe down, or artwork in the guest rooms needs to be dusted. Sometimes areas that aren't eye level aren't always cleaned every day, but over time, they become noticeably less clean. Focusing on one item a week can really improve the hotel's overall cleanliness and the frequency of required deep cleans. Performance standards. This answers the question, what must be done in order to clean or maintain the major items within this area? The housekeeping manager, along with the help of the general manager, will be responsible for developing performance standards for the housekeeping team. Standards are required quality levels of performance. In big chain hotels, these standards of performance are generally set by the corporate office or hotel franchisor and often coincide with a quality assurance checklist. Performance standards state not only what must be done, but how the job should be done. They are a measurement of success, and typically you are in competition with either hotels within your comp set or hotels that fall under the same ownership or brand. Measurement should be compared against like hotels to ensure a fair comparison of performance. It is imperative that all housekeeping staff carry out their cleaning tasks in a consistent manner. If everyone is cleaning differently, then items may not be cleaned efficiently, supplies and product may be wasted, and labor and operational costs may increase. Plus, the key to earning guest loyalty is to offer a quality, consistent product each time they stay. The key to establishing consistency will be the performance standards that are developed by leadership. It will be the responsibility of the housekeeping manager to communicate, train, and manage staff on the performance standards. When developing performance standards and operating procedures, the housekeeping manager should include staff in the development process. This will allow for real-life feedback on the current processes and consider the actual job performers' feedback when developing or changing performance standards. In order to provide effective training, the use of manuals and videos can be deemed useless and boring. An effective manager will use a hands-on approach to train employees and demonstrate the required performance standards. Lastly, daily inspection of housekeeping areas' responsibility will ensure performance standards are being met. If they aren't, the housekeeping manager will need to make adjustments to their strategies. Performance strategies should be reviewed at least once a year and updated when necessary. Number 4, productivity standards. Productivity standards must be determined and set in order to be appropriately staff the department within the limitations of the department's operating budget. Productivity standards will vary from housekeeping department to housekeeping department and will be dependent on the duties of the housekeeping attendant and the scale level of the hotel. An economy scale hotel will have different productivity standards than a luxury scale hotel. An essential part of the housekeeping manager's role is to know how long it should take each attendant to complete each of their job duties. These are the duties that are established on the cleaning frequency schedules. Once the timing and complexity of the duties has been defined, productivity standards can be set accordingly and then monitored and managed by the housekeeping manager. Quality versus quantity. If the performance standards, example, the productivity standards, are too high, the quantity of work that can be accomplished can be too low. The negative impact of this would require the housekeeping manager to add more staff to accomplish all the necessary duties at the high productivity standards. This will increase labor expenses and inevitably force the housekeeping manager to release staff and duties, such as cleaning rooms efficiently, to go by the wayside. However, it would hopefully cause a reevaluation of the productivity standards by the housekeeping and general manager and allow for more realistic productivity standards to be set. If performance standards are set too low, the quantity of work will be too high. This will likely result in an increase of guest complaints and the hotel's quality and appearance to decline rapidly. The housekeeping and general manager may be pleased with their labor expense savings, but the cost is ultimately detrimental because it is impacting the guest stay negatively. The housekeeping and general manager will need to establish higher performance standards and use department expenses wisely. Therefore, the best way to balance performance standards and productivity standards is to balance the two. Because labor is the largest expense, labor costs must be kept top of mind, and the housekeeping manager must always be sure they are monitoring and evaluating the performance of their team and working smarter and more efficiently with the resources they have available to them. And lastly, inventory levels. Managing and keeping appropriate levels of inventory are required in order for the housekeeping department to complete their job duties efficiently and to standard. The housekeeping manager needs to determine exactly what equipment their department needs and how much of each supply item is needed in order for their department to operate efficiently and to the set standards. This all starts with a purchasing system. The purchasing system must consistently maintain the needed amounts of items in the housekeeping inventories. There are 2 types of inventories the housekeeping manager is responsible for. 1 is recycled inventories and 2 non-recycled inventories. Recycled inventories are recycled or can be used again during the course of routine hotel operations. These include linens, terry, certain guest-used equipment such as an iron, ironing boards, cribs, microwaves, refrigerators, coffee makers, hair dryers, and other things that a guest may need during their stay that the hotel provides. Other recycled equipment includes housekeeping carts, vacuum cleaners, carpet shampooers, floor buffers, and other equipment supply items that a housekeeper may use daily to complete their duties. Non-recycled inventories are supplies or items that are consumed or used up during the routine activities of the housekeeping department. These include cleaning supplies used by the housekeeping attendant, guest room supplies such as shampoo, conditioner, lotion, soap, plus amenities the hotel may choose to offer, such as disposable cups, toothbrushes, shower caps, cotton balls, etc. Typically, an item that can be used one time is thrown away and cannot be used again. It is imperative that the housekeeping manager monitor the inventory count of the non-recycled items. These are items that will need to be purchased most frequently and can impact a guest stay if they are in short supply and missing from their guest room. A PAR is the number of items or supplies the hotel must have on hand each day to efficiently support their routine housekeeping operations. This is where the housekeeping manager must establish a PAR level that is based on a minimum quantity and a maximum quantity. The minimum quantity is the least amount of inventory items that can be in stock at any given time. The inventory level cannot fall below the established minimum quantity. When the established inventory level of non-recycled inventory reaches the minimum quantity, a new order for supplies must be placed. When the minimum quantity is established, the housekeeping manager will need to keep in mind the standard order and shipping time of the items from their respective vendors. This lead time will be essential in ensuring the items are delivered by the time they are needed. The maximum quantity is the highest amount of inventory items that should be in stock at any given time. The quantity must be consistent with the hotel's available storage space and the shelf life of the product. Remember, an overstock of inventory is not a good thing. Unused inventory is essentially the hotel owner's cash sitting on a shelf. Let's talk about how the housekeeping department is organized. It will be the responsibility of the housekeeping manager to structure the department's staff appropriately and dependent on what the hotel requires. Again, this relates back to the chain scale level of the hotel and what type of housekeeping services are required and what areas of the hotel they must service. The housekeeping manager will need to make sure that job assignments are fair, that work can be completed efficiently and timely, and that the job assignment matches the skill level and ability of the employee. The housekeeping manager must establish the lines of authority and the flow of communication within the department, as well as ensure the communication to other departments, such as the front office and maintenance, are open and understood. 2 principles that guide the housekeeping department are each employee should have 1 supervisor, and 2, supervisors should have the authority and training and information necessary to guide their teams under their direction. Delegation is a management technique, and it is an important part of the housekeeping manager's responsibilities, and a key skill needed when a manager is developing their own management technique. They must be able to delegate authority to their supervisors and ensure that the employees who report up to the supervisor have an understanding and respect of the supervisor's authority. In turn, the supervisor must understand the hotel's policies, cleaning procedures, each person's job duty, and how far their authority reaches. An organization chart is a helpful tool that allows each employee to view the hierarchy of their department. This allows the employee to know and understand who they report to and so on. Depending on the scale, size, and responsibility of the housekeeping department, the organizational chart will vary. On this slide, 2 org charts are provided as examples of how the hierarchy may be set up at an economy scale hotel versus a large mid-market hotel with a few hundred guest rooms. The larger the hotel, the larger the housekeeping department, and the more positions to fill and train on. Steps to planning. The planning of the housekeeping department will also involve the housekeeping manager identifying the types of positions that are needed in order to operate the housekeeping department efficiently. With this comes the development of a task list for each position and a job description. The task list will identify the tasks that the employee hired for the specific position will need to complete as part of their job responsibilities. The task list only states what the employee should be able to do in order to perform the job correctly and efficiently. Additionally, a detailed job description written by the housekeeping manager is imperative to provide the employee or potential employee a full scope of what their responsibilities will be, who they will report to, the skills and requirements they need to possess in order to complete their job responsibilities, the equipment and materials they'll be expected to handle, and any other special assignments or projects they may be asked to complete. In addition to this, the job description needs to be specific to the hotel where they will be performing their responsibilities. Job descriptions should be updated annually. And when changes are being made, the manager should take into consideration any feedback the employees in that position have to offer. A job description should always be available to each employee, especially at the time of hiring. The housekeeping manager will be responsible for setting the department's operating budget. The operating budget provides an estimation of expenses the department anticipates incurring for the upcoming year. Expenses will include labor, supplies such as linen and terry, laundry operation costs, cleaning supply costs, and certain equipment costs. The year's operating budget uses data from the current year, past year, and monthly occupancy forecasts for the upcoming year to determine their budget estimates. The budget is then reviewed by the hotel's leadership, who then determines what the appropriate budget is for each line item of the upcoming year. Rarely does any department get the budget they ask for. The hotel leadership will review all department budgets and make adjustments to ensure they are in line with the financial objectives and goals of their ownership. Once approved, the housekeeping manager is given their live budget broken down by month to manage accordingly. Every day, the housekeeping manager will need to coordinate schedules and work assignments and make sure that their employees have access to all necessary equipment and supplies to complete their tasks for that day. This is where staffing and staffing appropriately becomes important. The last thing the housekeeping manager wants to do is walk into their office in the morning and learn that either they didn't schedule enough staff for the day or they didn't hire reliable staff and they have ended up short-staffed for the day. Creating a schedule and allotting the appropriate number of staff for each day is based on the hotel's forecasted occupancy for each day of the schedule period. The housekeeping manager will not create the forecast. However, they will obtain the most recent and up-to-date forecast from the general manager, the revenue manager, or the controller, and from there, they will use specific calculations to determine how many housekeeping attendants, laundry attendants, house persons, etc. are needed for each day. Staffing can also be allotted for special projects and deep cleaning assignments. Let's talk about directing and controlling. Managers direct people and control things. Directing can also be referred to as supervising, motivating, training, and disciplining. Motivation is particularly important and is a management technique that is often used to improve employee morale and focus efforts on meeting goals. A manager who is a good motivator and possesses good motivator skills can be a great leader. It is important that the housekeeping manager maintain a proper attitude and constraint because their behavior will trickle down to their supervisors and staff if it's negative. This can be a downfall of the department. Controlling is the method in which housekeeping manager protects the hotel's assets. This means implementing procedures that align with the hotel's financial goals and ensuring the value of the hotel doesn't falter. There are a lot of realms of evaluation in the housekeeping department. There is the evaluation of how well the department is performing, how well each individual is performing their job responsibilities, and where their improvements may lie. These are evaluated by comparing employee and department performance to the performance and productivity standards. Another type of evaluation is going to be determined and questioned when monthly budget reports are reviewed by leadership. Budget reporting tools will be key in comparing the actual departmental expenses to what the budget estimated for the month. If variances are found, it will be the housekeeping manager who is held responsible to explain the variances, provide an analysis, and set an action plan to overcome the variance and not repeat it for the next month. The inability to overcome variance and put in action plans to address problems could be a risk to the housekeeping manager's employment. In Blackboard, there is an article posted as well as a link for the 7 effective management techniques to boost employee performance. You can use the link or you can download the PDF file in Blackboard. Make sure you read this article for this week. And I hope you all have a wonderful and productive week. Of course, feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. And as a reminder, the deck for this PowerPoint is in Blackboard, so you are welcome to download it and review my notes. And again, have a great week. Thanks, everyone.